The cold steel at Marcus Stone's throat told him one thing. He was either about to die or fate had decided to test him one more time. He woke in darkness, barely aware of his own breath, the bitter taste of whiskey still on his tongue, and the weight of a woman's knee crushing his chest. The knife pressed deeper. A warm line of blood slid down his neck. Her voice was calm, steady, and far deadlier than the blade she held. "My father died in your cabin last night. You were the last to see him alive." Marcus didn't move, couldn't. One wrong breath, and the woman hovering over him would spill his blood without hesitation. In the thin moonlight slipping through the cracked shutters, he could finally see her. High cheekbones, dark fire in her eyes, long black hair falling around them like a curtain that closed out the world. Everything about her spoke of danger. Everything about her was beautiful. She was Apache, and she was ready to kill him. Marcus kept his hands flat beside him. "If I wanted your father dead," he said quietly, "I wouldn't have spent all night changing his bandages." The knife shook, not from fear, but from a rage that barely stayed inside her body. Under her knee, Marcus felt the tension in her muscles, the tremble of someone choosing between vengeance and truth. Her eyes stayed locked on him. "Prove it." Marcus shifted only his eyes toward the small table beside the bed. Her gaze followed. There lay a torn medicine pouch, dried blood on the cloth strips, and the bitter scent of herbs still hanging in the cool air. The last signs of an old man who fought for his life. "Your father's pouch is right there," Marcus whispered. "I tried to save him." She touched the pouch with careful fingers. Doubt flickered across her face. "You could have placed this here yourself." "But I didn't." He watched her eyes search his face, looking for deception. Instead, she found something else, a truth he didn't hide. "Your father warned me about your uncle," Marcus said. "He spoke of raids, of betrayal." The blade pressed harder. "You know nothing of Awoke. I know he's about to get a lot of people killed, white and Apache both. Your father wanted it stopped." Silence filled the space between them. Her breath came steady against his cheek. She leaned closer, her body pressing into him, heat rolling off her skin like a desert fire. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of a name and a history. "I am Kaia. Takakoto was my father." She drew the knife back an inch. Her anger didn't fade, but something inside her shifted. "I watched this cabin from the ridge," she said. "I saw you carry him inside, saw your light burning till morning. Then you know I tried to help him." "I know you failed," she replied, "but perhaps not by choice." She rose from his chest with a smooth, powerful motion, standing beside the bed with the grace of a hunter. The loss of her warmth left him strangely cold. She tucked the knife into her belt, the leather of her dress hugging her figure as she straightened. "Awoke plans to strike in 3 days," Kaia said. "Canyon Creek first, then the town." Marcus felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. Canyon Creek held families, children, innocent people with no idea what was coming. "How do you know this?" he asked. "Because he told me, before I learned what kind of man he truly was." Her voice caught for the first time, a faint tremor of pain breaking through the warrior mask she wore. When she met his eyes again, the fire inside her burned brighter than before. "You want to stop him?" she asked. "Then you need me. A white man alone in Apache territory won't live long enough to try." Marcus sat up slowly. He rubbed the blood at his throat and stared at the woman who had nearly killed him. "And what makes you think I'd trust you not to put that knife between my ribs?" "Because you're the only white man," she said, "who tried to save an Apache's life instead of taking it." She stepped toward the window. Moonlight traced her shoulders, silver against bronze skin. "And because," she said softly, "I need you alive to help me kill my uncle." At dawn they rode out together, Marcus on his horse, Kaia walking at his side with her hands bound by rope to make it look as if she were his prisoner. It was the only way to move through disputed land without drawing bullets from both sides. The rope rubbed her wrists raw, but she never complained. Each mile pulled them deeper into danger. "Tell me about him," Marcus said as they climbed a rocky path. "Your uncle." Kaia's breathing grew heavier with the steep climb. The rise and fall of her chest beneath the deerskin dress tugged at Marcus's attention, but her words held him more. He was a war chief once, she said. Fought with honor, but gold changed him. White men's promises changed him. What kind of promises? She stopped and turned toward him, her eyes burning with memory, that if he helped clear the land of troublesome Apache, they'd give him territory of his own to rule. Marcus stared at her, stunned. So he's hunting his own people. Not hunting, Kaia said. Destroying. My father tried to stop him. That is why he died. The pain in her voice cut deeper than the knife she'd held to his throat. By evening, they found shelter in a narrow canyon. Marcus built a small fire. Kaia knelt by the stream, washing edible plants she'd gathered. Her dress clung to her body, outlining every curve. She moved with strength and quiet determination, and something inside him shifted, something he hadn't felt in years. You are staring, she said without turning. Sorry, I did not say I minded. She stood, water dripping from her fingers.
Baba?
But if we work together, she said, stepping closer, you should know something. What's that? I do not break easily. Her voice, her eyes, her nearness, they drew him in like gravity. Marcus held her gaze. What kind of man do you think I am? Kaia studied him for a long moment. The kind who has killed too many people, she said softly, and now wants to save whoever he can. Before he could speak, a shadow crossed her expression. Ayakoa's camp is near, she said. Tomorrow we must decide who we truly are. The fire cracked between them, and fate tightened its grip on both their lives. The sun rose hard and unkind the next morning, turning the canyon walls red as blood. Marcus saddled his horse in silence while Kaia checked her weapons. There was no fear in her movements, only purpose. She carried herself like someone who had already accepted that death might come today, and Marcus felt a tightness in his chest he couldn't shake. They reached Ayakoa's camp by midday. From the canyon rim, Marcus counted at least 30 fighters. Some were Apache, some were outlaws. All of them were loyal to a man who had sold entire families for gold and promises. There, Kaia whispered, pointing to the largest tent. That is where he keeps his counsel. Marcus studied the guards posted at every opening. How do we get close without ending up full of bullets? We don't. Kaia stepped in front of him, blocking his view of the camp. The wind pressed her long black hair across her shoulders. Her eyes held a dangerous calm. You do. Marcus blinked. That wasn't the plan. Plans change, she said. He knows me. The moment he sees my face, he will kill us both. But a white man with weapons to trade? That he will welcome. Marcus stared at her, searching for doubt. There was none. Only resolve. You are asking me to walk into a camp full of killers, he said. I am asking you to help save children, Kaia replied. My father's people, your people? Everyone Ayakoa plans to strike. That ended the argument. An hour later, Marcus rode down the canyon path leading a pack mule filled with rifles taken from the raiders they'd fought days earlier. Kaia was hidden high on the rocks above him, a Winchester resting steady in her hands. The rope marks on her wrists were still raw, proof of how far she was willing to go to stop her uncle. Marcus entered the camp slowly. Every eye followed him. Suspicion thick in the air. But no one fired. He took that as a blessing. Ayakoa stepped from his tent like a chief surveying his land. His gray-streaked hair moved in the wind, and his expression was carved from stone. His voice was calm, too calm. You bring gifts to my camp, white man, Ayakoa said in accented English. What do you want in return? Marcus slid off his horse and lifted the edge of the pack mule's tarp. The rifles glinted in the harsh sun. I want opportunity, he said, and a cut of whatever you're planning. Greed lit the war chief's eyes. Marcus fed him small lies wrapped inside bigger truths. He hinted about settlements with weak defenses, about men back east who funded violent operations. Ayakoa believed every word, but Marcus was not ready for what he learned in return. He listened as Ayakoa spoke of Canyon Creek, attacked at dawn. Cedar Falls burned to the ground after that. Then a coordinated strike on families hiding in winter camps, settlers and Apache alike. It wasn't war. It was extermination. "You want in on this?" Ayakoa asked finally. "Then you ride with us tomorrow and show me you can kill white settlers as easily as you trade with them." Marcus nodded slowly, though bile rose in his throat. "Before I commit," he said, "I need proof you have the reach to make all this happen." Ayakoa hesitated. Marcus saw it, the brief flicker of caution. Then the war chief trusted his greed more than his instincts. He motioned Marcus inside his tent. What Marcus saw there chilled him. Maps with strike points, supply lists, secret payment records, and letters signed by Colonel Harrison of Fort McKinley. Letters promising troop movements, protection, and political support in exchange for violence blamed on the Apache. Marcus forced himself to speak lightly. "Impressive. Who else helps you?" "Important men," Ayakoa said with a proud smile. "Men who want power. Men who will reward loyalty." That was all Marcus needed. He threw the whiskey in Ayakoa's face, struck the man in the throat, grabbed every incriminating paper he could reach, and sprinted for the tent opening. Gunfire exploded across the camp. Marcus leapt onto his horse and spurred it forward. Riders gave chase, bullets snapping past his ears. Ayakoa's furious screams echoed behind him. Marcus lowered himself in the saddle, urging the horse faster. Then a rifle cracked high on the canyon ridge. One of the pursuers toppled from his horse, Kaia. She fired again, and again, each shot clean and controlled. Marcus burst out of the canyon mouth and found her already waiting with their spare horses.
"Did you get it?" she yelled.
"Enough to hang half the government," he said, waving the stolen documents. "But Ayakoa is still alive, and he's coming." Kaia mounted in one fluid motion. "Then we ride for Fort McKinley. If Harrison learns we're coming, he'll run or kill everyone who can expose him." They rode through the night, pushing their bodies past exhaustion. The wind cut at their faces. The desert cold crept through their clothes. Neither of them slowed. By sunrise, the walls of Fort McKinley rose ahead, glowing gold in the early light. Soldiers stared as Marcus and Kaia rode through the gate under a flag of truce. Inside the command office, Marcus laid out the papers, supply manifests, letters, and plans for raids that would have destroyed entire communities. General Morrison read each page, his face turning grimmer by the second. "If this is true," the general said, "it is treason." Kaia stepped forward. Her voice was steady. "It is true. My father died trying to stop it." Morrison didn't hesitate. Within the hour, Colonel Harrison was in chains. His network of political allies collapsed around him. Raids were stopped. Families were saved. Settlements survived. But Ayakoa was still out there. As the sun set, Kaia stood beside Marcus outside the fort walls. The evening wind lifted her hair, carrying with it the weight of everything they'd endured. "You helped save my father's people," she said softly. Marcus shook his head. "I only did what was right." Kaia stepped closer. "Maybe. But not many men choose the right path when the wrong one pays better." For the first time, Marcus let himself really look at her. Strong, fierce, beautiful, and full of a fire he couldn't walk away from. "We're not done," Kaia said. "Ayakoa will try again one day." Marcus nodded. "Then we face him, together." She held his gaze for a long moment. Their world was still dangerous, still full of enemies, but between them, something new had taken root, something neither of them could deny: hope. Snow fell early that winter, drifting across the Colorado foothills like pale smoke. Marcus and Kaia had settled into a small valley cabin, gifted by the territorial governor as thanks for exposing the conspiracy. The world around them had begun to heal, but danger still lived beyond the tree line. Ayakoa had vanished after Harrison's arrest, slipping into the high desert with the fighters who stayed loyal to him. He would return. Both of them knew it. Marcus stacked firewood beside the porch, while Kaia stirred a pot of stew inside. Warmth glowed through the cabin windows. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like he had a home. A real one. When Kaia stepped outside, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear, he forgot the cold. "You're staring again," she said. "I told you," Marcus replied. "I don't plan to stop." She looked down at her growing belly and smiled. Their child had changed everything. They were no longer just two warriors bound by danger. They were a family learning how to hope. But the frontier rarely allowed peace for long. A single rider appeared on the ridge, moving fast. Marcus reached instinctively for his rifle as Kaia stepped to his side. The rider waved a white cloth and guided his horse down the slope. When he reached the cabin, Marcus recognized him as a scout from Fort McKinley. "Ayakoa," the scout said, struggling to catch his breath. "He's gathered men again, twice as many as before. He plans to strike Cedar Falls, then move through the valley. The general sent me to warn you." Kaia's face hardened, but her hand drifted protectively to her stomach. "He won't stop," she whispered. "Not until we face him." Marcus saw the conflict in her eyes. She wanted justice, but she also carried a life inside her that deserved safety. The decision tore at her. "You're not riding into this," Marcus said gently. Kaia lifted her chin. "My uncle is leading men to kill families. I cannot hide while others die." "You're not hiding," Marcus said. "You're protecting our child. Let me finish what we started." Silence settled between them. Her eyes shone with emotion he rarely saw, fear mixed with love. She reached for his hand and held it tightly. "Come back to me," she said. "I will," Marcus promised, though he knew promises meant little on a battlefield. By dawn, Marcus rode with a small detachment from the fort. Snow crunched under the horses' hooves, and the cold bit hard at their faces. But they pushed toward Cedar Falls. Smoke rose in the distance long before they reached the outskirts. Marcus's heart clenched. Ayakoa had started early. Gunshots cracked across the ridge as they approached. Families ran for shelter. Outlaws and rogue Apache fighters swept through the streets with fire and rage. Marcus leapt from his horse and ran toward the saloon, where townsfolk had barricaded themselves inside. "Marcus!" a voice roared from the center of the chaos. Ayakoa. The war chief stood tall, wrapped in a wolf-hide cloak, a rifle in one hand and a torch in the other. His warriors circled around him like shadows. When his gaze locked with Marcus's, the hatred was unmistakable. "You should have died with Takakoda," Ayakoa shouted. "And you should have died as a leader, not a traitor," Marcus answered. Town defenders exchanged gunfire with raiders. Marcus fought his way through the melee, firing with calm precision. Every breath burned in his lungs as he pushed toward Ayakoa, but the war chief's men closed ranks, forcing Marcus back. Ayakoa raised his torch toward the saloon roof, ready to burn everyone inside. Then a single rifle shot echoed across the valley. Ayakoa's torch flew from his hand. Marcus turned toward the ridge, and his heart nearly stopped. Kaia stood there, rifle raised, her jaw set with fierce determination. Snow clung to her dress and hair. She had ridden despite the danger, despite everything he'd said. Ayakoa stared at her in disbelief. "You betray your blood." Kaia's voice carried like thunder. "I honor my father." The battle froze for a heartbeat. Then all hell broke loose. Ayakoa charged toward the saloon. Marcus sprinted after him, tackling the war chief just as he aimed his rifle. They crashed into the snow, fists swinging. Ayakoa was strong, stronger than Marcus expected. He fought like a man driven by fury and desperation. "You destroyed everything." Ayakoa spat, driving a knee into Marcus's ribs. "No," Marcus growled. "You did that." A shot rang out. Ayakoa jerked. He stared at Marcus with a strange, broken look before collapsing. Behind him stood Kaia, her rifle smoking. Her hands shook, not from recoil, but from the weight of ending the last tie to her father's family. Marcus caught her as she stumbled toward him. She sagged into his arms, trembling from cold and emotion. "It's over," he whispered. Kaia pressed her forehead to his chest. No, now it begins. Together they walked back toward Cedar Falls. Behind them, soldiers rounded up the surviving raiders. Families emerged from hiding. Smoke drifted skyward like the valley was finally releasing its long-held breath. Months later, spring returned to the land. Wildflowers bloomed across the valley floor, and the sound of a baby's cry filled the small cabin overlooking the green plains. Marcus held his newborn daughter in his arms, while Kaia leaned against him, exhausted but glowing. "She has your eyes," Marcus whispered. "She has your stubbornness," Kaia replied softly. Outside, the world was still wild, still dangerous. But for the first time in either of their lives, the future didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a promise they had fought for, a promise they had bled for, a promise they had earned together.